Hey, great day, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Dr. TK. Today, we are talking about common money mistakes that entrepreneurs and business owners are making. So, let me be all the way clear. Your girl has had a lot of learning experiences as it relates to money. I'm talking about thousands of dollars, $12,000, $20,000, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000. And when I say mistakes, AKA learning experiences, the goal is that when you become aware that this is a problem for your business, that you get the help that you need so that you can learn from it and do better. That's the goal, right? So today I'm going to be introducing to you 10 common money mistakes that you want to pay attention to in your business. Let's go ahead and dive in. Hey, my name is Dr. TK, and welcome to the Abundant Creator Podcast. On this podcast show, we will uncover prosperous tools to help you become the CEO of your business and your life. I am a mom and wife who merged my knowledge as a clinical psychologist and professor for over 20 years into building a multi-six-figure mental health business and seven-figure digital product business serving others and doing what I love. Now, I believe that you can make a wildly abundant living unapologetically while also dreaming big, enjoying life, and making a huge impact. So if you are ready to achieve your biggest goals, then you are in the right place. So let's get started. All right. So number one is undercharging. And so I know that I received a lot of questions around how much should I charge? And I am a business coach where I will say, I will tell you when your price is too low, but I will not tell you that you're at the exact rate, primarily because you have to include your expertise. You want to look at your competitors in your space. If you have a brick and mortar, which means that you go to an office, you go to a building, you want to do your marketing research. But at the end of the day, when people say undercharging, what we mean is you know that your product or service is worth a certain amount. And literally, before someone asks you, how much does it cost? How much is it going to be? You literally have a conversation with like the angel and the devil. And the angel says, go ahead and charge that amount. You got it, sis. And then this one over here is like, you ain't going to be able to do it. You know, they're not going to pay. And so what do? We create all of these negative narratives, these limiting beliefs. And I would also like to add, which is what I share with our community, that we sometimes place our faulty, toxic money narrative onto other people. So, for example, you may not believe that a pair of jeans is valued at $150. You may believe that you can go to a store and pay $10 and it's the same type of quality, even though you know it's not, right? And so, because you have that mindset, when you are around other people, you're going to just project those thoughts and those feelings onto other people. And that was a personal example, but you may also do that with business. You may not believe that you should have to pay $1,000+ to get a certain level of access in coaching or a certain level of access to information in a course. Therefore, you don't even realize it when someone is coming to you to invest in your course, your product, your services. You want the $1,000+, but at the same time, you're battling believing that someone is going to invest that amount in your business. So ultimately, what we're talking about today is psychology of buying. And you want to be very aware of what your narrative that you're carrying around about money is, because odds are the person is more than willing to pay you the amount that your product or service is worth, but you don't believe that that's how much you're worth. So we really need to do some business therapy around your value of your stuff. Okay. So the next one is entrepreneurs are very poor. Some of them were very poor at budgeting and planning. So budgeting includes, you shouldn't just say, okay, my bookkeeper is going to take care of it. My tax person, my CPA is my money team. They got it. No, no, no. Even though they go into a system, plug in all these numbers and generate a profit and loss statement, you should still ask questions. At the end of the day, they can submit your tax paperwork, but if you don't understand what you just signed, it's your business, which means that your is on the line. Okay. And so you want to make sure that you understand What are your monthly expenses? And I'm also going to add quarterly expenses, yearly expenses. And then let's just say if you, for myself, for example, I purchased or I renewed my Wix website. I renewed it for 5 years. So if I never upgrade to a different level of a website, I don't have to renew it for another 5 years. Now, the thing is, I need to go into my calendar and I need to set up a reminder so that when they try to hit me with that seven, eight, $900 bill, I understand when it's coming and I understand what hit my account. And so, do you understand thoroughly what it costs to run your business? Also, don't forget about financial planning. Someone that I work with that I bring them into our community is called financial forecasting. So, what that may look like is they say, hey, it's the fourth quarter. I know that we're planning for next year. I know that these are all the products and services that you've offered over this year. Which product or service do you believe you're going to continue to offer? And which ones are you going to scale back or scale up on? Which ones are you potentially going to shut down or close? And then ultimately, based on those numbers, they will then go into how many customers or clients will you serve, across what time span. Are you having certain amount of, let's just say, launches 3 times a year versus you're seeing, clients and customers for coaching, consulting, or therapy throughout the year? All of those equate to a different number. And all of those numbers also should tell you how much you should or should not be spending with that budgeting, those expenses. So every year, about twice a year, me and my team, but it really starts with me, we will evaluate what are the systems that we need to run our business effectively. And sometimes over time, once you get into coaching, mentorship communities, you may recognize that you just start adding on systems. I know I have, because other people said they were good and they were. But as you look up over time, you realize that some of these systems do the exact same thing. So you really want to have a very good understanding of what you are paying for. Next one is entrepreneurs sometimes lack a clear cancellation policy, which helps you lose money. Helps you lose money because you don't even understand how somebody can or cannot cancel an appointment with you, whether you're a therapist, coach, or consultant, trainer. Everything you do needs boundaries and guidelines. So I'm going to give you an example of two different types: one-to-one services and one-to-many. This could also include products, right? So let's do all three. So one-to-one services is more like one-to-one coaching, one-to-one therapy. When someone onboards to either, they either have to sign a policies form or a coaching contractual agreement. In the therapy services, for example, because I'm a psychologist, I will lay out my policies and let them know that they have a certain amount of time, let's just say 24 hours, a full 24 hours, to cancel their appointment. Otherwise, they actually have to pay a certain amount. Now, the certain amount is totally up to you. It can be the full rate, it can be a percentage of the rate, but they are not allowed to have another session unless they take care of that bill. Okay. That's more service based. From coaching, still under services, it looks slightly different. I let my clients know your sessions don't roll over. If we're in a 6-month container, and unless it's an extenuating circumstance that we need to talk about as to why you cannot come, then if we were supposed to have 2 sessions this month and you canceled one because you double booked yourself for a doctor's appointment and it wasn't an extenuating circumstance, like you went to the ER and you had 1 session that month, we don't add on a session somewhere else just because you have it available. Those are services. One-to-many. When I do any speaking engagement, I let them know that, especially if I'm traveling out of town, there may be a high possibility that I cannot reschedule. If it is local, we have a certain threshold of how many days or weeks, depending on how big the workshop or training is, that we have to be informed that there is a reschedule. And also, I have something around this number two for whatever reason. It's just a made up number. Number two signifies in my business that for a therapy client, if they cancel 2 times in a row, they are automatically placed on the as needed list, meaning they will get in when they fit in, they lose their therapy spot. And that is in my policies. Okay. For coaching, it's just you don't use it, you lose it. For trainings, after 2, we need to sit down at the table and talk about my retainer agreement because we agreed that this was the amount of trainings or workshops or speaking engagements that I would do within this amount of time. For products, whether it's physical or digital, you just want to highlight more, so more for refund policy. What is your refund policy? Is it a absolute no refund policy, or is it a refund policy with um, like specific details? Like for digital products, I remember I did one on show your work. So if someone requested a refund, it had to be within a certain time frame, and they have had to show the worksheets that they did, because we know our products well enough that if you do the work, you will make money. Okay. So some people don't want to do that. And when we would send them that question, it would just be like crickets. They would either come back to the workshops, the coaching calls, and engage, or they would just bow out gracefully. But more than likely, they would just come back. But ultimately, ask yourself, do you have clear cancellation or refund policies? Okay. Next is inefficient billing practices. So, based on what type of business you have, let's just take a service based business, right? If you have someone for coaching, consulting, or even therapy services like one on one or group, you have to decide for your office, for your business, when are you going to bill the customer or client? Are you going to set it up where they're billed at the top of the morning before you even see them? Some doctor's appointments do that, because at that point you can't cancel anyway. Are you going to bill them immediately after the session? And if you do, how are you going to collect payment? If you're a therapist or a doctor and you take insurance, when do you check eligibility to make sure that they still have coverage? You should not be waiting 6 months and then you get a receipt back saying this client owes $2,000. That's a no no. If you take insurances, no matter what type of medical or mental health provider you are, you want to understand some type of billing practices that can be consistent and conducive for you. So what I did in my private practice for years, because I've taken private pay, I've taken insurance panels, is that I made it a habit that if it was a copay or cash or check back in the day that needed to be collected, it was either collected in certain seasons at the beginning or at the end of the session, right? And if you feel a little icky about collecting at the beginning of the session, I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you went to the doctor or the dentist and they did not collect your copay before you started? Now, they may have added additional things at the dentist, and then you have to sign a waiver, and then you pay at the end. But if there was something that you had to pay in the beginning, they for sure will get their money. Okay. And so you want to keep those things in mind so that you can set up a schedule. So going back to my schedule in the past, every Saturday, because I knew that was a day where as soon as I go home, it's over for me. I've been working at my 9 to 5 job, 40 hours plus a week at that time. I was in my private practice like 1 or 2 days, usually on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. So typically I was always there on Saturdays, and I would choose to be done at 12 or 1 o'clock in my office. And I knew that when I left my office, I would not be as productive as I should because the sun is out and I want to be outside. I live in Southern California. So I chose to sit in my office and I dedicated deep thought to 1 hour of billing. So carve out time for your money. Okay. Next one is ignoring tax obligations. Now, I'm not a tax professional. I'm not a financial fiduciary. You do want to consult with a CPA or tax professional about what type of entity structure you should have in your business based on your, I guess, products or services, cash flow. They'll ask you all the questions, but everybody got to pay taxes. And so whether you are W-9, LLC, or some other type of corporation like C Corp, S Corp, LLC, tax as S Corp, whatever the case may be, you're going to have some type of tax paperwork due at the end of the year. Now, of course, it can get more complicated based on how your business is set up. But what I would suggest is if you're new to business, consult with a tax professional before you start so that you know what entity structure to set up. If you're constantly growing in your business and you feel like you don't understand tax write-offs, you feel like every time you turn around, you got another tax bill, you definitely need to talk to a tax person. But do not ignore Uncle Sam. I promise you from personal experience, if you do not understand something, they're still going to come after you. Okay. Another thing entrepreneurs definitely neglect, and I'm going to say you're not missing money now, but your future self is missing money later, is that entrepreneurs, and I've been through this stint for a while during different seasons of entrepreneurships after I left my job, is ignoring retirement goals. So there are various vehicles that you can put your money in. This is not the workshop for that. I typically bring on people to talk about it, but the typical ones are like a traditional 401k, a traditional IRA or Roth IRA, or an annuity. Sometimes, if you leave jobs, I would highly recommend that you speak to a tax professional and you look at rolling over your money if you know that you're for sure not ever going back to that job again, unless there are consequences that if you remove the money, maybe you lose money. I mean, again, I'm not a financial tax person or financial planner, so go and talk to one. But do not ignore your future goals. Does that mean that you put all of your money into retirement? No, but that's the purpose of a consultation. So for myself, I have, and this is more personal, I have an index life insurance policy. It has two sides. It has a saving side and it has a death benefit side. What that means is that I have a certain amount of money, like a max threshold that I can throw in there. And it's some crazy, like over $40,000 based on when I created it. And there are certain percentages that I get back on my money. That's one type of vehicle. I rolled over my money when I left my job. That went into an annuity. I don't touch that money until I retire. But again, I like to diversify my money. So, when was the last time you looked at your retirement accounts? When was the last time you wrote down where your retirement accounts are? Does anyone even know where to find them? Okay. All right. Overlooking business expenses. We talked about this earlier, but ultimately, are you just not even paying attention to when your stuff is due? So, I'm going to share a quick tip that I learned talking to someone I brought into our community as a support coach around financing and life insurance. And so, this particular individual is one of my good friends. I talk to her about every quarter related to the themes that she sees with our clients. And one of the things that she had noticed about 2 years ago, and so now I start to educate our students on, hey, remember to talk about this if you make an appointment with this person, is that she informed us that when she would help them look at their cash flow, she recognized that if they had a payment plan in our coaching program for private practice, when she would ask them about all their expenses, they would not mention the coaching, the mentorship. And she would say, like, hey, I thought you had a payment plan with Dr. TK. And they were like, oh yeah, I do. And she said, where's that on your expense list? And that can cause a ripple effect in your money because you may think, oh man, I got like $500 extra after paying myself, saving money, and paying all of my expenses. But you forgot that maybe your investment was $300. Maybe your investment was $500. Maybe you want to go to a conference and that's going to cost you a deposit with travel of $500. So the $500 that you're seeing is actually not there. Pay attention to when your money is due. Put it on a calendar. It could be digital, physical. You have to know what's going to alert you the best and what are you going to pay attention to. Okay. Not investing in marketing also will contribute to you losing money. So marketing is one of those things that you cannot just not do in business. So in business, you're going to have your business structure. You're going to have a product or service. You're going to have customer service and deliverability, but you also have this thing called brand and marketing. My brand is Dr. TK, clinical psychologist, therapist, business mentor. That's my brand, right? My marketing efforts go into talking about and providing education around business. And then I'll also have a separate niche within business specifically for therapists. That's why I always give example for therapists to hear this information, because some people that may hear this information may just be an entrepreneur, and then some may just be a therapist, right? And a blend of the two. And so you want to make sure that you are investing in putting out the word of your product or service. But I also don't want you to forget to serve and educate. Serve and educate, then sell. And to me, I believe if you've done a great job of serving, you don't even have to sell because people are already bought into loving you, becoming a raving fan. They get to know, like, and trust you, especially through video or audio or a combination of both. And then after they've seen you for a while, they may ask you, what do you have for me? This is what I have a problem with in my business or this part of my life, right? Whatever problem you can help them solve. But you want to get help with putting your products and services out there and talking about it consistently. Okay. Now, the next one is failing to diversify your streams. Now, this is huge, but there's a disclaimer. Okay. So I believe that no one is made to only do one thing, but that may be your preference based on distractibility, feeling anxious around your time being split into multiple areas. But that also can be due to maybe you don't have help. Maybe you refuse to hire a team member, a VA, a personal assistant. You're just trying to do everything by yourself. So sometimes people aren't able to scale their business to a degree where they can put their attention in different places, different streams, primarily because you are it tag, right? However, I also believe in the power of one to many. So earlier I had described my private practice, coaching, training, but training is one to many. Workshops is one to many. Me doing a podcast, one to many. Me doing a virtual workshop is one to many, right? That cuts out a lot of time of me talking to each individual person that may be interested in a product or service that I have. And honestly, they can binge watch or listen to a lot of my content. But at the end of the day, I like to diversify my streams because I'm a person where I like to show up differently on different days of the week. What do I mean by that? I don't just want to provide one on one therapy all day, all week. That's going to burn me out. I need a shift, and that's me personally. So, you want to tap into if you do want to diversify your streams, what would that look like? And I'm going to give you the best way to me and the easiest way. For therapists, and if you're just another type of entrepreneur, I would just recommend that you look at what you're already doing and how can you branch out from that thing. So as a therapist, if I were working with couples in services, right? A branch off would be I write a book for couples. I do a retreat for couples. I do a virtual workshop for couples. So I'm still talking to the same type of clients. It's just different levels of services. Okay. Next one of my favorites, we coming to an end, is not keeping up with continuing educational workshops, credits. Do not, if this is you in your field, do not wait until the last minute to take CEs. But my disclaimer to that is please make sure that your CEs are aligned with where you are growing your business. Don't only go to CEs based on what you did 2 years ago or however often you need to update your CEs. You always want to make sure that you're current. You want to spread them out so that you're not creating stress for no reason. But you also want to, I would encourage you to choose continuing educational credits or workshops or units, whatever they're called, according to your licensure, according to where you want to grow. So I am a certified CE instructor for mental health providers, and I primarily only provide workshops on business. Fire me up. You just finished another epic episode of the Abundant Creator Podcast. Now, I would love to connect with you, so be sure to head down to the show notes for any additional abundant resources. And if you are looking for a new tribe of abundant creators like yourself, connect with me on Instagram at Dr. TK Site or YouTube at Dr. TK. Until the next episode, create and live abundantly.